Fnatic is a very large multi-game esports team who entered the competitive League of Legends scene on March 14, 2011. They became the Season 1 World Champions at DreamHack 2011 with the lineup of Arekesu, Xuche, Cyanide, Lamia, and Melisson. 2 months later, Fnatic would place third at IEM Cologne Season 4, losing to Team Solo Mid. At IEM New York just 2 months later, Fnatic was able to take revenge, going an undefeated 7-0 in matches. After a bit of downtime, they attended the IEM World Championships in early Season 2. It was a disappointing showing from the Season 1 champions, falling out in the group stage. After that, they took place in a few smaller tournaments, like the SK Gaming Trophy March, where they managed to take second place. However, the next big time we would see Fnatic play on stage was in March of 2012, when they were invited to Korea to participate in the Zubu Champions Spring. They were placed on a so-called Group of Death, and played versus Startail on the first day, where the Korean playstyle would completely take them off guard. In the next matches, Fnatic would win one and lose one, finding themselves back up against Startail in a do-or-die match. Cyanide was able to secure a nice early advantage, moving Fnatic into the quarterfinals of Champions Spring. In this set, Fnatic was unable to win a single game against Team OP. In the Raid Call Play Cup, Fnatic fell to CLG.eu, and in Raid Call Play Cup 2 with substitute Phalox, they fell to Team Acer, finishing second at both events. This led to Fnatic undergoing changes. They removed Xuche for performance reasons on June 4th, and on June 5th they announced replacement Soaz, formerly of Team AAA. Not long after, Phalox became the starting support as Melisson left the team. The first test for this iteration of Fnatic was MLG Spring on June 8th. Despite easy wins versus Fornot and TSM Evo, they lost 0-2 to Solo Mid's main squad, and dropped 1-2 to Team Dynamic, a team that would later become Good Game University or Team Coast. Fnatic fell in 5th to 6th place at this event. With their focus now on DreamHack Summer 2012, winning against PAH and Millennium in groups, they ended up losing to CLG.eu in the first round of the bracket stage, and had to face the famous CLG.eu in the semifinals. After losing 0-2, Fnatic found themselves fighting CLG.eu again, and they lost, taking 4th place. Going into the EU Regional Finals, they would find themselves in another rematch versus CLG.eu, and despite recent events at DreamHack, Fnatic took the series in a convincing 2-0. In the semifinals, though, they found themselves up against the fearsome Moscow 5. This would be the first time Fnatic would square off against the legendary squad in an offline event. Moscow 5 crushed Game 1, but Fnatic was able to hold on strong for Game 2, becoming one of the first teams to take a game from Moscow 5. Overall, Moscow 5 came out strong in Game 3, taking the series 2-1. Fnatic found themselves up against CLG.eu once more, this time with a ticket to the World Championships on the line. Yellow Pete was able to carry CLG.eu to a 2-0 sweep over Fnatic, who, after winning the Season 1 World Championships, would not attend the Season 2 World Championships. Despite that, they held their heads high and attended events leading into the off-season. It was then that longtime AD player Lamia would announce retirement. Also, Cyanide took a short break to study in high school. In the meantime, they attended an event with the lineup of Soaz, Herkabot, Arekesu, Yellowstar, and Unrated. One of the requirements was to have 3 French players. They took first with that lineup, but shortly after attended DreamHack Winter with the lineup Soaz, Cyanide, Arekesu, Reckless, and Rated. In this event, they managed to finally overcome CLG.eu in the finals, placing first. After that, it was announced that the team would attend IPL 5 due to other teams not being able to attend. IPL 5 was what most people consider the breakout tournament of new Fnatic. In their group, they placed second, only dropping to World Elite, defeating NA's Team Dynamic and Korea's Azubu Blaze. This advanced them to the winners bracket, where they would be placed up against the Season 2 World Champions, Taipei Assassins. Fnatic was able to take a 2-0 victory over the World Champions, advancing to the next round against CLG Prime. Despite Doublelift's trash talk and his best attempts to carry, Fnatic was able to take a 2-1 comeback win versus the NA team, advancing to the winners bracket finals against World Elite. They lost 1-2, becoming the only team to take a game from World Elite, and dropping to the losers bracket finals against TPA once more. With another 2-0 win against TPA, though, Fnatic would have to try once again to prove themselves against World Elite in the Grand Finals. In a best-of-5, Fnatic ended up dropping 1-3, taking home second in what is seen as the best League of Legends event of all time. After IPL 5, it was announced that AD prodigy Arekesu was too young to play in the LCS qualifiers. Fnatic decided to replace him with Yellowstar and started a new team built around him, Fnatic Academy. The team attended IEM Katowice, going 2-1 in groups, beating out SK Gaming with an amazing backdoor victory and absolute legends, but losing to Azubu Frost. In the semifinals, Fnatic faced Frost's sister team, Azubu Blaze, losing 1-2 and taking 3rd to 4th place. Soon after that, it was time for Fnatic to participate in the Season 3 qualifiers. In groups, Fnatic played a Nexus, Giants, and Team Alternate. Winning against a Nexus put them in the winners match, where they lost to Giants, putting them in fear of being knocked out. However, that fear was short-lived as they defeated Team Alternate and moved on to the bracket stage. Fnatic played a best-of-3 against Meet Your Makers for entry into the Season 3 LCS, and they took that series 2-0. In the LCS, Fnatic was dominant, going 22-6. The only team they had a losing record against was Gambit Gaming, formerly Moscow 5. Going into the playoffs, they faced EG, formerly CLG.eu, winning 2-1, and then faced off in the finals that the EU LCS had been waiting for, against Gambit. The series went all 5 games, with Fnatic eventually coming out on top. In the summer split, Fnatic made a controversial swap, removing N-Rated from the team and moving AD carry Yellowstar to support. They picked up Pushu, an unknown talent, as their new AD. They managed to go 15-13, tying with Ninjas in Pajamas, Gambit Gaming, and Evil Geniuses. On the last day of LCS, they played a tiebreaker tournament that Fnatic came out on top of, but this was the most competitive an LCS split has ever been. In the playoffs, Fnatic would go 2-0 against Evil Geniuses, and then face off against the only team that did better than that 4-way tie, the Lemon Dogs, in the final. Fnatic would pull out ahead 3-1, taking EU's first seed going into the World Championships. Because of EU's poor showing at All-Stars, Fnatic did not get a bye into the quarterfinals, and thus had to play in the group stages, in a group with rivals Gambit Gaming, 3rd and A seed Vulcan, OGN's Samsung Galaxy Ozone, and underdogs Mineski. Fnatic would lose 1 game to Vulcan, but bounce back in the group strong, going 7-1 overall. This put them against hyped North American first seed Cloud9 in a Clash of the West, starting an international rivalry. With the series tied 1-1, and a snowball-heavy meta, Cloud9's early mistakes and Cyanide's early pressure led to a bloodbath from Fnatic. It only took Fnatic 28 minutes to close out a 26-2 embarrassment of the North American champions. Next, though, Fnatic was up against Chinese powerhouse Royal Club. This set was a best-of-5, with Royal winning the first 2 games with decisive calls and comeback plays. Game 3, though, was much like Fnatic vs Cloud9, a bloodbath stomp from Fnatic, giving their fans hope. In Game 4, Royal would just prove one step above, knocking Fnatic out of the World Championships after one of the most thrilling best-of-5s. After the World Championships, Arekesu rejoined the team, replacing Pushu as the starting AD carry. His first test was at the Battle of the Atlantic against a Cloud9 that wanted some revenge from Worlds, and they dropped 0-2 to this team. Going into the LCS, Fnatic looked good, attending IEM Katowice mid-spring split. There, they lost their first game to Chinese team IG and played an hour and 11-minute slugfest versus Millennium, where they finally came out on top. In a rematch versus IG, Fnatic managed to come out on top once more, placing them once again against Cloud9 in the bracket stage. This is the closest series Cloud9 and Fnatic ever played, with Fnatic winning 2-1 overall once more. In the finals, Fnatic were exposed by the Korean KT Rolster Bullets, who did not drop a single game all event. After the spring split, they came in second with a record of 17-11. They entered playoffs, and fans created a meme online, EU LCS, where everyone beats everyone, but in the end, Fnatic wins. They managed to beat Rising Team Alliance in a 2-1 victory, and took down SK Gaming 3-1 in the finals. This qualified them for the All-Star Invitational. At All-Stars, they went 1-3 in groups, beating TPA but losing to C9, SKT, and OMG. This put them against SKT in the semifinals, where they got 2-0'd and knocked out of the tournament. This led into Fnatic's worst split of LCS. As per usual, They finished the regular split in second place, with only one random team above them, in this case Alliance. But in the playoffs, instead of coming up big and beating the team that bested them in the regular split, they lost their first ever LCS title to Alliance 1-3. Alliance had dethroned the Kings of Europe, going into the Season 4 World Championships. At Worlds, Fnatic was placed in a group of death, with Samsung Blue, OMG, and LMQ. After being the only team to take a game in groups from Samsung Blue, they lost a heartbreaking game to OMG, costing them a ticket out of groups and sending them home early. After this, Fnatic lost Soaz, Cyanide, Expeke, and Reckless, leaving them with just support player Yellowstar to rebuild the team. They picked up unknown Korean players Huni and Rainover, along with former H2K mid Febivin and EU challenger AD Steelback, and entered into the Season 5 LCS. The team was more successful than anyone could have imagined, ending the spring split 13-5, only losing out to a dominant SK Gaming. In playoffs, they returned to their old ways, beating out the oddball team Unicorns of Love in the finals 3-2, earning yet another LCS title for Fnatic. This got them invited to MSI, where they went 2-3 in groups, beating Team Solomid and the wildcard team Besiktas, but losing to AHQ, SKT, and EDG. However, in their semi-final match against SKT, they shocked everyone by forcing a 5-game set. Mid laner Febivin came up huge, even solo-killing Faker. Still, in Game 5, SKT proved too much and sent them home from MSI. Fnatic fans had high expectations when Reckless returned to replace Steelback, arguably the team's weakest link. In summer, they pulled off something that had never been done, the perfect 18-0 season, filled with comeback wins and one-sided stomps. Fnatic had a lot of hype entering playoffs and Worlds. In the playoff finals, Origin, the team that Fnatic players Soaz and Expeke left to create, ended up being the first EU team to take a game off of this Fnatic squad. Still though, Fnatic prevailed 3-2, entering Worlds as EU's first seed. At Worlds, Fnatic looked a lot more beatable, losing to AHQ and C9 in Week 1, but bouncing back to go 3-0 in Week 2. In the quarterfinals, they dominated Chinese second seed and MSI champions EDG 3-0, but against Koreans Ku Tigers, they fell short. Coach Daylor is on record saying that they didn't play up to their own standards, and that they burnt out. Going into the 2016 season, a lot is in the air for Fnatic. Huni and Rainover have left for NA LCS Team Immortals, and Yellowstar has left for a different NA team as well. This leaves Febivin and Reckless to try and rebuild the Fnatic brand once more into the Kings of Europe. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button, and subscribe to my channel because there will be more team history, player history, and general LCS videos where this one came from.